Alright guys, so this is the continuation of selective precipitation, okay? So what this lesson was really talking about is you had these kind of three compounds in a beaker. So you had silver nitrate, copper nitrate, and magnesium nitrate. And all these were in one beaker, swirling around, whatever. Now what's nice about this is nitrate is soluble with any substance. It doesn't really make a precipitate, so it's going to be just a spectator ion. So all you're going to have now in your beaker really is you're going to have the nitrate, right? But remember, it's a spectator. It's not going to form a precipitate, so it's just sitting there. So what you're going to have is you're going to have silver, copper 2, and magnesium ions floating around in this one beaker. Something like this. So you're going to have silver, copper, and magnesium swirling around in this beaker. Alright, there's a nice little visual to show you what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like, just FYI. So, you have these three ions in here. Now what you want to do is you want to try to separate them from the beaker. You can do this if you bond it to something, you can make a solid, and you can remove each one of these one by one from the beaker and just have nothing but an aqueous solution with nothing but nitrate left. So we want to try to remove one of these one by one, or as the title of the lesson says, selectively. And what we're going to use for that is we're going to add, let the light adjust here, sodium chloride, okay? Or not sodium chloride. We're going to put sodium ions into the beaker, okay? Sodium will bond with silver, chlorine, and hydroxide. Oh wait, no, sorry. Oops. We're going to put either sodium sulfate, sodium chloride, or sodium hydroxide into the beaker. Because what happens is the sodium, it's soluble with everything. It won't make a precipitate. Okay, so if we put sodium into here, it's just going to sit outside like so and just be a spectator ion as well. So what will happen though is the sulfur, the chloride, and the hydroxide though, they can bond with silver, copper, and magnesium to form precipitates. So what we need to do is we need to write out this table and see what makes a precipitate and what makes a salt. We'll just make nothing with it. So either we'll have a precipitate, which we're going to mark with PPT, PPT for precipitate, or SOL for soluble, okay, as in solution. Now just be careful, some people put SOL and they think solid. It's actually, solid. It's not solid, it's solution, okay? So just be aware of that. So if you go along and check on your chart that you got in your handout, that's not it. Here it is. So if you look at this chart here, you can go through and you can check. So if we look at, let's see here, sulfide, S, we see that it's going to be soluble with all these guys here, but it's going to have low solubility with all others. So when we figure this out, sulfide is going to form a precipitate with these three ions. Next we'll check out chloride. The chlorides are right here. It's going to have low solubility with silver and copper 1. So silver, we get a precipitate. Copper 2 though isn't on the chart. Okay, there's a 2 there. It's a 1 on the chart. So it's going to give me a solution. Same with magnesium. Now we have to check out hydroxide. Hydroxide, OH, is right here. So if we check here, it's going to have low solubility with all of them. So we put precipitate for all three. Now I want to know, if I wanted to remove each one of these ions at one time, what should I add first? Should I add the sulfur, which was in... Let's go back to the notes here. Do I add, where was I? There we go, the sodium sulfide, sodium chloride, or sodium hydroxide. So I have Na2, NaCl, NaOH. So which one do I add first out of these three? Well, if I add Na2S, sodium sulfide, I'm going to form two precipitates right away. and that's no good. I only want one at a time. I want to remove one of these guys one at a time. If I add the sodium hydroxide, I'm going to form 3 precipitates, and I can't selectively remove those at one at a time. But if I add the sodium chloride, that's going to give me my chlorine ions that I need, and that's only going to form a precipitate with the silver. So once that's done, the silver has been removed. I've then removed the silver. It's gone. Okay? So the first one to go is the sodium chloride. And the reason I'm doing that is because the sodium chloride will only remove the silver. So that's still going to leave me the copper and the magnesium. Now if I look between the two that I have left, I have sodium sulfate and sodium hydroxide. If I add the hydroxide, I'm going to get both a copper and a magnesium precipitate, which I don't want. I only want one precipitate at a time. So if I add the sodium sulfate, I'm only going to get a precipitate with the copper. So the second one then to go in would be my Na2S. And that's going to take care of just the copper ions. So one at a time, I'm eliminating these in succession, okay? Now the next one, so the only thing I need now is to get rid of the magnesium. And the only thing that makes a precipitate with magnesium is the hydroxide. So that's the last thing left. So the last one to go would be sodium hydroxide, like so. Okay, so the chloride goes first, and that takes care of the silver. The sodium goes second, that takes care of the copper. And then finally, hydroxide goes to take care of the magnesium. So basically, once you get your chart laid out, you have to see which one will make a precipitate with only one of them first. Then it's just a process of elimination. So I eliminate the chlorine with the silver. And then once the silver's gone, only one thing will make a precipitate with copper, so I go with that. Get rid of all the copper. Then I'm just left with the magnesium. And you just cancel them out one by one. Okay? Hopefully that helps. If not, I will be in the classroom tomorrow.